Everyone, Tyler Mannion here, NPC and IFBB Pro League Vice President. This will be your Mr. Olympia recap for the Wellness Division. Obviously, once again, at the Olympia, we had a very close show between the top two, Francielli and Issa. It was extremely close. 1 point decision, obviously, again. So I'm going to go through it and basically highlight what I think the difference was that gave Issa the edge. We'll go pose by pose. First up, we have the front pose. Obviously, Francielli's front pose is extremely strong. She's a very nice hourglass shape to her physique in the upper body. And just the overall shape and structure and flow goes very, very well. For Issa, I think she has improved her front pose a lot. But you can still see that when it comes to hourglass shape in this pose, Francielli just has a little bit better of that and also a little bit better of a structure. So for me, the front pose would go to Francielli. Next would be the first quarter turn to the right. This is Francielli's better side for her side pose. This is, I think, Issa's a little bit worse side to the side pose. But as you see here, Francielli, again, the structure, the hourglass shape, very good development to the legs and the glutes. Obviously, both of them have this, not too overpowering, not too much muscle, but the amount of muscle that we want to see in wellness. Issa still has hourglass shape now to this pose. Again, the lower body is very good as well. If you see from both of them, they have good balance between their side leg and their glute. So while, we're supposed to be lower body dominant, the lower body itself, the glutes and the legs should be in proportion. So for me, again, on this side pose, I would give the edge to Francielli. Now we move into the back pose. And here is probably one of the major things that, decided this show. And that is Issa has improved her back pose a lot. Her glutes were very good, very round, very full. Again, the glutes and the legs were in very good proportion to each other. Now we look at Francielli. Francielli's glutes themselves are probably the best in all of wellness. The legs, you can see the glutes are a little bit overpowering to her legs in this pose. Also, again, we were right up close to them in person. Francielli's condition, she was holding just a touch of water, okay? Where it was most evident was here in the back pose. Issa's condition was right on point. As you see, we can faintly see the definition to their hamstrings. Issa's definitely not too hard. I think she just nailed the condition 100% on this day. Francielli in this back pose, you can see when she was moving around in transition, getting into the pose, she was just holding just a tiny bit of water here. So for me, in the back pose itself, because of Issa's overall balance and perfect conditioning, I give this back pose to Issa. Next would be the next side pose. And here, I think this is Issa's obviously better side, Francielli's worse side. However, while they were posing, Francielli really did not hit this pose well at all. Just the angle that she was hitting this pose at was not working for her at all. Issa, you see very, very nice hourglass shape to her from this pose. You also see, again, the glute and the side leg overall balance. And overall, this pose just flows very, very well for her. For Francielli, this pose was not flowing well for her at all. She stood way too much to the side. If you see, you can compare her side leg on this side to her side leg on the other side. The way she was standing basically took away a lot of the illusion in the size of her leg, really made her lose her hamstring, and so it seemed quad dominant, the hamstring not showing too much. And overall, she just seemed very, very uncomfortable in this pose. So for me, Issa took this pose handily to make it 2 poses to 2. So now when it's 2 poses to 2, we obviously look at a lot of different things. One of the differentiators is obviously the walk to the back, and the walk forward. Again, for me, in this walk, the overall balance and the conditioning that Issa brought made me pick her and lean towards her in the walk. Again, Francielli has amazing glutes. They're a little bit overpowering to her legs. And she was also just holding just a tiny bit of water here. So in the walk, I feel like that went to Issa. And the advantage that Francielli has on Issa with her physique is her overall hourglass shape and the way her upper body looks. However, obviously in the back pose, we're not really seeing the upper body because it's facing the back. And then in the one side pose, Issa's proportions and hourglass shape in her upper body actually were showed off much better than Francielli's was. So while this helped her in the front in her one side pose, that advantage was negated on the other side pose and obviously, with the walk. So because of the perfect conditioning and because Issa had the advantage in the walk, in my opinion, and basically we posed them a lot because we knew it was very close. Issa posed tremendously. She hit every pose the same every single time. Francielle seemed like she was struggling with the posing all throughout. She did not seem comfortable. Even in her better poses, she started hitting them just a little bit different. And overall, just looked uncomfortable while we were going through this. So, posing, presentation, the walk, basically all these external factors went to Issa with the perfect conditioning, very good lower body balance. Obviously, the upper body is not nearly as dominant as the lower body, and everything we look for in wellness, she exhibited on this day. So that's, for me, is what gave Issa the nod over Francielle. Now, in third, we had Eduarda, and in fourth, we had Elisa. For Eduarda, I think she has a very good look, but she still can use a little bit more maturity and density to her lower body, specifically to her legs and to her glutes. She has a very, very good front pose, almost very similar to Francielle's, but she still needs a little bit more of that density and maturity to the lower body. Elisa did a great job in downsizing her overall physique. She brought her upper body down more. She also brought the muscularity and the hardness down in her lower body. Now, I think she lost just a little bit too much to her hamstrings, while she was downsizing, so she can just fill that up just a little bit more. I think that's why it's so important that you don't want to go too far one way or the other when the judges say, you need to streamline or you need to grow. You only want to go so far, just a little bit, so the next time you get on stage, you get that feedback again, because obviously if you go too far one way or the other, then you're going to have to, again, work on sculpting the body the way that we want to see it. I thought Elisa's conditioning was much, much better at this show, way less hard. It's in line with exactly what we want to see in wellness. And in my opinion, I think third and fourth were very close and could have been switched because Elisa definitely has the amount of development that we want to see overall in the lower body, a little bit more than Eduarda has right now. In fifth, we had Giselle. I think Giselle brought a great look for herself to the stage. I think for her, the main things were she was just a little bit on the hard side in the lower body. You could really see that when she was hitting both of her side poses. Other than that, I would say, her legs came down just a little bit too much in size. She needs to put a little bit more volume to her legs. You could really see this, in both side poses where I think it was most evident. But overall, she brought a very strong wellness look. Being just a touch fuller with conditioning, I think, would help too with her lower body. But I think she did a great job again of showing improvements. And finally, in sixth, we had Lisa from Germany. I think Lisa's physique, the amount of improvements she made have been unbelievable this year. Really, for her, she just came in too hard. That was the number one thing. And I think because she came in too hard at this show, it makes her look just a little bit too dense overall in her lower body. So my first suggestion to her would be to soften up just a little bit more. I judged her twice this year already in Tampa and in Texas. I think she was actually a little bit softer at those shows than she was at the Olympia. But still, even at those, I said she needed to be a little bit fuller and softer with the conditioning. My first suggestion to her would be to do that first, because maybe that makes her lower body look a little bit less dense. If not, then she might need to streamline the lower body just a touch so she looks a little bit less dense. But I think she has a very, very dangerous physique that, with the proper conditioning, can have the opportunity to move up a lot of places for next year. But overall, the top six in wellness, as you saw, they were very lower body dominant compared to their upper body, which is what we want to see. Their lower bodies were not too big, were really not too dense. I mean, Lisa, obviously, I told you the conditioning was too hard, but it wasn't anything crazy. Everybody else above her, you saw there was really no extreme with the amount of muscle, the amount of density, or the amount of conditioning. So I think this top six for wellness really exhibited what we want to see in the division. And I think this is a division that the quality has gone a lot better over recent years. And the amount of girls that are going to be fighting for these top six spots next year is going to be even more.